Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris here, and today I wanted to make just kind of a short, probably a little bit rambly. Those things seem like contradictions, but a video about the state of physical media, and this has become an increasingly hot topic of late. And I think a lot of it has to do with Best Buy and a lot of other outlets like Target, just kind of pushing out the use of Blu-ray, 4K Blu-ray, all that sort of stuff. And it's interesting, right? When I have conversations with family and friends, frequently the question is, well, why not just stream it? And I do love streaming. I take advantage of streaming all the time, whether it's Netflix and even Vudu. There are times where if Vudu has a really good sale on a film that I'd like to have in my collection, I'll pick it up as opposed to trying to track down a physical copy. But for my money, the investment in having a 4K Blu-ray, especially of a movie, if the transfer is done well, is just sort of irreplaceable, right? Nobody can ever take that away from you. You've always got it right there and you can pop it in whatever you want. But the advice I give people too is only buy the things that you really want to have in your collection. In other words, don't just buy things for the sake of buying things. What kinds of things do you legitimately know that you will watch more than once, more than twice, all of that kind of stuff. For example, James Cameron is releasing 4K renderings of, I think it's The Abyss, True Lies, and Aliens. And I'm going to buy all three of those. I've seen some initial impressions of the quality of those, and I guess there's a lot of digital noise reduction in some of those, but overall it seems to be relatively favorable. But those are movies that I know that I will watch multiple times. And yes, I do have DVD copies of those. I do have, I think in one instance, I've got Aliens, which would be a 1080p version of that on Vudu, but I want to have those in 4K, and because I love those movies, I know that I'll come back to them frequently. Another development recently was Sony and PlayStation taking away, I think it was some Discovery Plus content that people had purchased digitally. They said, even though you've purchased this, it's no longer going to be able to be accessed after a certain date, which is kind of absurd to me and kind of crazy. So even though it's not in this room, downstairs in our home, I've got two kind of big shelves filled with my 4K disc, my Blu-ray disc. I've got a binder filled with disc. And I tried to, and I've over the years kind of done this and whittled it back where I needed to, but I've tried to keep it to a collection that I feel like I will come back to time and again. The movies, again, that I know that I'll watch multiple times because I think that that's where it's worth the time and the money. So if you're someone who's got an interest in physical media and you're not sure how to get started with that, what I would say is, again, just buy what you want. Buy what you know you will watch and that you have a legitimate, strong interest in. For example, for me, you can see my Raiders of the Lost Ark poster somewhere over here over my shoulder. I do not have a 4K version of that. I've got the 1080p Blu-ray collection of that, but I am going to pick up the 4K collection soon. Even though that does not include Dial of Destiny, I do have that disc as a standalone disc, but I want to have that in 4K because I watch those movies all the time, multiple times a year, and it's time for me to get that upgrade, I think. So I build my collection out in that way, but a lot of people kind of ask the question, what does it look like for the future of physical media if stores like Best Buy and Target and maybe eventually Walmart, I don't know, are going to completely get away from that as sort of a thing that they deal in. A lot of other YouTubers have talked about this, and I think what we're going to see over time is that it's going to become an increasingly niche thing. It's almost like what we see with vinyl, it kind of coming back into favor potentially. But I do still think that there is a hunger out there for disc. I think a lot of people do still collect disc because we want the physical thing. Plus, I mean, being honest, even if it's a 4K stream, the 4K disc as opposed to the 4K stream, which might have a little bit of compression with it, the disc is going to always look better if you've got a solid 4K player and an accompanying TV to go with that. I can see the difference very clearly. And it's funny when I talk with my wife about it, she's like, they look exactly the same, but I can notice it. I see it. And so all of that to say, again, I think it's going to become an increasingly niche thing, but I think there's enough of that hunger out there to sustain it as a long-term industry, as a long-term thing. I don't think it's ever going to fully go away. I think there are enough collectors out there, enough people who care about having and owning a physical movie to make it a reality for most people. But those companies like Arrow Video and Shout, they're going to, I think gain popularity as they put more titles out there and make them available. And I think even bigger studios like Warner Brothers, and maybe even Disney to a certain extent, see that there is a need for that and that people want that. So I don't think it's ever going to totally go away, but it is a little bit weird now going into Best Buy and not being able to sort of browse the shelves. Really, in my area, and I live in a major city, I would say Charlotte. I mean, it's the 15th or 16th largest city in the country at this point. It's increasingly difficult without going somewhere like Walmart to go and just look at movies, to browse movies in disc. There are some kind of boutique movie places in my area. Vizart Video is one that I'm thinking about. But it's increasingly rare to just be able to go in and look at discs. Like if I want a new 4K Blu-ray, I'm going to have to get it online. And that's okay. I mean, that's just sort of what it is now. But we're in sort of this weird world where things are trending digitally, but a lot of people are pushing back against that for, I think, strong reasons. So it'll be interesting to see what the future of that looks like. But if you're a collector, if you're someone who has an interest in physical media, I would be curious to hear what you think about that down in the comments below. I just wanted to take a few minutes to offer my 2 cents on that because it's become an increasingly interesting and important topic for people who love film, for sure, over the past, year to couple of years. But really, I think the heat has been turned up over the past couple of months, especially with Best Buy just getting out of that game altogether. But anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll check back in soon.